Good morning, everybody. I'm Dick Berry from the Livingston County Historical Society and Genealogy Group at Smithland, Kentucky. And I'm here visiting with my friend Johnny Conn, his wife Janell. Johnny, we'd like you tell a little bit about your growing up out in the Bend and who your mother and daddy was and your siblings, and we'll let you start off that way.
Okay. My mother was Gertrude Fearing, George and Annie Fearing's daughter. My dad, Bill Conn, was the son of Nancy and John David Conn. I was named after him. And we lived in an old house that was part of Livingston County Poor Farm, and it pretty much remained that while we were there. And all the houses are gone now, but we lived on the farm there till I got through high school. Then we moved to Smithland.
Johnny, was that Vicksburg? Near Vicksburg?
Vicksburg was just coming to an end when I was a little boy.
Okay.
Dick Reynolds ran a grocery store, the post office, and had a ferry that crossed the river there at Vicksburg. And they had 5 houses there, and it was a thriving community for 50 years and began to die out and was pretty much gone when I was a little boy.
Okay. Dick Reynolds. He moved to Smithland.
Had a store there by Mahan's Grocery.
Yes. And had a house full of pretty girl daughters, didn't he?
He sure did. Ann and Sue.
Ann and Sue.
Alberta and cannot remember. Imogene. Wonderful people.
Had a son.
Lee
Reynolds. Okay.
And he was married to Hattie Borders. Yeah. Hattie was his wife.
Okay.
She ran a furniture store adjacent to the grocery store there.
Right. Okay. All right. Now tell us a little bit about your education. Where did you start getting your education? You at Scott's Chapel?
Yes, we went to one-room school at Scott's Chapel, and they quit having school there because they couldn't find someone to teach. And my brother and I went over to Mud Springs, one-room school over on the Robinson farm. And we were in the 8th grade at the Mud Springs, and storm came through and blew the school off its foundation, and they closed the school, and we next year went to Smithland. That's the first year they brought the bus from Smithland around the roads through to Scott's Chapel by our house.
About what year was that, Johnny? You remember?
I'd say it was about 1950, 49, 50.
Okay. And then went on to high school at Smithland?
I graduated from Livingston County High School in 1954.
Okay. And that was the class that our friend Norwood Wright was he in 54 class?
No, he was ahead of us.
He was about 49 or 50.
Yeah.
Okay. And teachers at Livingston County High School. Can you name any of your teachers you remember?
I remember several. Mr. Kenneth Harden, which was a fine guy. Oral Thurkel was the principal, great guy. Miss Mahan was English department, wonderful teacher. Gladys Rogers was our math teacher. She was a delightful person. Miss Dabney was the wife of Mr. Dabney, the principal. And she was, in my opinion, one of the best teachers I ever had. She was outstanding in her body of knowledge that she knew and could quote instantly. Miss Button was a substitute teacher.
Miss Aubrey.
And I'm trying to think of Miss Tracy. She was a great friend of all the students, and everybody loved her. She was a great person. Mr. Allardyce, he was an agriculture teacher. He gave me a nickname. He called everybody with their last name first. He called me Connie John.
How many people know that now?
I was talking to Thomas Tightloff, who died recently, and he remembered Mr. Allardyce calling me Connie John. Whenever he spanked you, which he spanked all of us often, he'd make you stick your head between his legs. You had a hand like a ham, and he'd pound your rear end. And then he'd always ask you, have you had enough? And you said yes. Then he gave you one more big whack on the rear end. I remember that very well. I got to visit that procedure several times.
I'll butt in here just a little bit. Talking about Miss Dabney. What a good teacher she was, how smart she was. I had her in a science class under the principal's office in old gym.
Yes.
Okay. Well, she was up there writing something on the board, and I didn't get a lot out of school, period. But she was writing on the board, and all of a sudden she just turned around and looked at all of us. There must have been 10 of us in that little room, maybe, I don't know. She looked around, she said, what do you children think you'll be doing in the year 2000? That just stuck with me. I never forgot. I thought, man, that's a long time from now. Here we are, 2025.
I'm going to be interviewing John Conn.
Yeah, I never thought that would ever happen. Sorry, buddy, I just had to tell you that.
That's good.
So after high school, what did you do, Johnny?
I felt like I wanted to be a minister, and I wanted, above everything else, to be an educated minister. And I wanted to have an education, but I didn't have any money to go to school. And I wasn't real strong in academics, but I got a chance to join the Methodist Church and get my introduction to the ministry through that church, and was licensed to preach. And after high school, I went to Kentucky Western on a hardship scholarship, and graduated there in 1958. And I went on from there to St. Paul's School of Theology Seminary in Kansas City, and that took 3 years. And I graduated from there in 1968. And I graduated with a degree in theology, STM. And I was always very proud of that degree because it was always my dream to be an educated minister. I grew up in a church where the ministers were wonderful people and caring, loving people and good pastors, but they didn't have an education, and I always wanted desperately to have an education. I remember one preacher we had, he was going to preach one night, and in the New Testament, as many people know, there's 3 letters of the book of John. John 1, John 2, and John 3. And they are marked by Roman numerals. 1, 2, and 3 Roman numerals. This preacher didn't know anything about Roman numerals. They're capital. So he said, tonight I'm going to preach from One-Eyed John. I always remembered every time I see that, I'd die laughing. He was going to preach from One-Eyed John's Roman numeral 1.
Oh my goodness.
And of course, the other thing about that was nobody knew the difference, which put him in good stead. I always hoped that I could have an education. So I was able to get a seminary degree. And then years later, I went to the School of Theology at a Christian church in Indianapolis and got a master in sacred theology. And I'm very proud of that degree. And that was the extent of my formal education. And of all the things I did in my career, that was one of the things I was proudest of, is to know the difference between One-Eyed John and the book of John.
I expect every time still today, every day you look at that, when you look at that, that's the first thing you think of, probably.
I think of it often and
Yeah.
tell it often and laugh about it often.
Yeah. Let's go over a little bit and tell us a little bit about places you've lived.
I preached at a number of churches in Livingston County. First church out of Livingston County was the Niagara Methodist Church here in Henderson County. And I preached there while I was in college. They had a program for ministerial students to have churches. I moved from there to Horse Cave, Kentucky. Lived there a while, moved to Kansas City to go to seminary, and had pastored 2 churches there. Came back to Horse Cave and got an invitation to be a chaplain here at Methodist Hospital in Henderson. And that required a certification. I went to Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, and was in training there for 1 year, and we called it a residency in training in pastoral care. And became a certified hospital chaplain, and came back to Henderson as chaplain at the Methodist Hospital. And I was there for many years.
Well, can we go back just for a second? Churches you pastored, and you pastored a lot of churches in Livingston County.
I did.
And I won't bring this one up, and you tell me. And you had a piano player, one of them, and she beat the fire out of that Miss Drusy Howard.
Wonderful, wonderful human being. Preached her funeral.
Her husband's name was what?
Harley Howard.
Harley Howard. Blast. Wasn't that his?
Yeah.
Blast.
That was his byword.
Blast, he'd say.
Yeah.
And I never did see her play, but he always told me she turned around sideways to the piano.
And crossed her legs.
Crossed her leg and patted her foot.
Yeah. That was Rusey.
Yeah, that's Drusy. Yeah.
That was at Tyner's Chapel.
Tyner's Chapel.
The one that I'm the proudest of was the church at Groves Chapel at Tylene had closed and had been closed for many years. And when I started preaching, I was junior in high school, and the district superintendent sent me to Groves Chapel to see if I could start the church again. And I went there, and I did. And I was very happy about what we accomplished there. We got the church open and was having good attendance. And the church started while I was there, and they continued to worship there for nearly 70 years after I left. I understand that it's closed now, but it was open for many, many years. Yeah, and I was very well received there, and I loved all the people, and they loved me, and they were very active little church for many years.
Well, I tell you what, Johnny Conn, you were well received anywhere you went.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You were, and people loved, and still do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Let's get a little lighter note here.
All right.
Let's bring up Mark McGrew.
The big playing the ride. There was a guy in Livingston County named Mark McGrew. Great guy. And he bought an airplane. Single engine Cessna, I believe. And he started the practice of taking people rides for a fee. There was a guy in town named Boyd Champion. And Boyd was always my good friend. I preached his funeral. He's my wife's uncle. He he wanted me to take a ride. Of course, I didn't know that he'd talked to Mark, and they'd set it up to give me a scare. So I got in that plane all excited about having a nice ride. And we was in a little field right out of Smithland in the old Robinson farm. Mark took off, and there was miles of clear territory to the north. He went to the south right toward the Smithland Bridge with me. And it looked like we were going to run into the bridge, and Mark had a deep voice, and it was solid and slow, and he said to me, "I don't think we're going to make it." And it scared the living life out of me. And we got to where I thought we were going to run into the bridge. He dropped to the right and straightened out. And I thought I was going to die. My heart was beating so fast. And we flew over the treetops for a while. He went out over the river, and all at once he put the nose straight up, and it seemed like for 30 minutes we went straight up. And we got unbelievable distance from the ground. Cars looked like ants. And all at once he turned the nose of the plane over, and we spiraled down toward the ground. And I thought we were going to crash, and that was the closest I've ever been to God. I made sure that I was ready to go. And we got what seemed like about 10 feet from the ground, and he straightened it out, circled around and landed. And I got out, and I couldn't stand up. I was so weak. And I didn't know it, but I was sick. And I had motion sickness. And I got in my car and drove home and lay down on the bed, and the bed kept flying just like that airplane. And I thought I was going to die. And I began to vomit, and I vomited for about 12 hours. And Boyd Champion come by to see how I was doing, and he could not, he couldn't stand up for laughing. He had to go sit down. He really got a kick out of me being sick. That was the plane ride. But what I love is later on, Mark had a passenger with him over around Hampton, and something happened to the plane, and there was no joke this time. They were going to crash, and the guy, I believe it was Mr. Jones, he said to Mark, "Mark, are we going to crash?" And Mark said, "Yes." He said, "What are we going to do?" And Mark said, "Trust in the Lord." And he landed the plane in a tree. They hit a tree. Always thought that was great.
Trust in the Lord.
Remembered that I could have been in that plane as well.
Right.
Trust in the Lord, he said. Martin agreed.
I'm going to ask you and ask Janell, were you with Johnny during all? When did y'all get married, Janell?
January the 29th, 1961,
Okay.
at the Methodist Church in Smithland,
Okay.
Kentucky.
And then the ride was on then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Things started happening. But, and children, how many children do y'all have?
You want me to answer?
Yes.
We have 2 children. David, my son, lives in Dallas. He's 60. Is he 60 now?
61.
61. And I have a daughter, Susan, who lives here in Henderson. And she's married, and her husband's named Kelly Turley. They don't have any children. My son is divorced. He has 1 daughter, and Janell is the love of our life.
Okay. Let's go back to Livingston County a little bit. What do you love about Livingston County when it comes to mind?
The main thing that I remember about Livingston County was the number of people that I thought liked me and loved me. And I always felt like a lot of people cared about me. I was raised in what we'd call today near poverty situation. I had low self-esteem, and the people that loved me and teased me and took care of me is the thing that I remember most. And all the people that I love and I believe love me was the thing that I remember most.
Well, I think you hit everybody. I know in Livingston County loves you, and everywhere you've ever been, they love Johnny Conn. And I want to just back up here just a little bit. Let's go back to Bart McGrew just for a minute.
All right.
Okay. We have with us today Jimmy Rudd, who is a brother to Janell. And he has a little story about Mark McGrew he'd like to tell.
Very good. Let's hear it.
You're on, Jimmy.
The same day Johnny took the ride, I wanted to take the ride. So I went running home over the hill to the house. Asked Mom and Dad if I could ride with Mark McGrew. Daddy said, I don't know. As long as you don't do that spin. So I hauled Buddy over the hill, back over the hill. Just as soon as I got about the top of the hill, here come Johnny and Mark. That's when they made that real hard right to the turn to keep from hitting the bridge. And they went up, and like Johnny said, when Mark made that tail spin, I said, I just don't want that either. So after Johnny got out, I got in, and here we went again. We went the other direction that time, towards the creek, the big creek out there.
Verse Creek.
Yeah, Burris Creek. And anyway, we got up, got right over Smithland, and he done what they call a power stall. And that's when he pulls that nose up like this, and when that airplane starts fluttering, all of a sudden the nose just drops off, and here we go. Well, instead of going into a span, he just dropped it right straight down and then pulled out. And that was my ride, and I fell in love with it too.
From then on,
From then on.
well, Mark,
In school, I was in the 3rd grade, I think. And in school, I'd make little model airplanes, fly them in there. I didn't do nothing else. I just flew model airplanes.
Yeah. Stuck with you, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've got about 40 of them now, I think.
Well, there was several Mark McGrew stories about people flying with him. You know.
Oh yeah. The day, yeah, that was the same day that after I got out, he went to Birdsville or Bow, and that's when he found that tree up there that day,
Yeah.
right after I got out of the airplane.
You got anything else you'd just like to talk to us about and tell us some stories that you would like to people to know and remember?
I got a funny story about my surgery. You know, there's a lot of sadness connected with the doctor telling you you're going to have surgery and then having it. And I was always looking for something to laugh about. And doctor told me I had cancer in the skull. So I went to Vanderbilt. I had surgery and I was on the table for 9 hours. 3 surgeons worked removing the cancer tumor from my top of my brain. And I had dealt with the possibility that I might die. And I had all that worked out. Was ready for that. But I lived and was able to get well. And I'm very grateful for that. But one of the funniest things that happened that I thought was sent to me so I could laugh was I've got a friend here in town. He washes cars, and he's a clinic when it comes to washing cars. They look like they lives out of the showcase when he gets through. His nickname is Bones. Right after surgery, this scar up here on my head was about twice the size it is now. Came down to my ear, and it looked horrible. It was all a lot of blood and a lot of exposed skin. It just couldn't look any worse. He popped in here one day with his grandkids right after I got back from the hospital. And he saw that scar that looked horrible. And it looked like it scared him to death. He nearly fainted. And so we talked a while, and Bones was so serious. I said, Bones, are you still washing cars? He said, no, I'm not washing cars much anymore. But he said, me and some of my buddies get together about every 3 months, and we make about 20 gallons of burgoo, and we sell it and we give the money to a needy person. And he said, that's what I'm doing now. And I said, when do you make some more burgoo? And he said, in about a month. And I said, will you bring me a gallon whenever you make some more? And he said, he got a terrible frown on his face. He said, yeah, I'll bring you some if you're still here.
Oh, well, that's about what you said to me, and I came to the door this morning. Boy, you're looking old. Oh, man. You always find a laugh somewhere, can't you, Johnny?
Yeah, he said, I'll bring you some if she's still here.
She still bringing it?
Yeah, he brought me a gallon. I think he was hoping I'd come to the door.
Janell, I'd like to ask you how it's been putting up with this fella for 64 years. The good, the bad, and whatever else comes to your mind. And Johnny, you chime in anytime she gets too rough on you. You come in and correct her.
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to.
Okay, Janell, go ahead.
Interestingly enough, it has been quite a challenge at many times, but I have always felt that anything is possible if you work hard enough at it and if you're dedicated to the challenges of life that you may expect. As a young child, I always intended and wanted to get married. And I always meant to always be married to the person that I selected to be my husband. I never once thought that if I married someone, if it didn't work, then I would just get out of it and go look for someone else. I always thought I would marry and it would be for keeps. So I think that was part of it, was my dedication. And I took my vows very seriously. But, you know, we never know what to expect and what can happen. But John has a wonderful sense of humor, and laughter is something that is very important for all of us to be able to experience and to have in our life. And I also think that our belief in God or a higher spirit and higher power is important also. And I have always believed in a higher power. And I think that's what's helped me also to get over some of the challenges and hard times. But anyway, time seems to have just gone so fast that I cannot believe that 64 years has gotten here so quickly. But it is amazing how we recall the wonderful, wonderful times in our life, and the really tough times have just seemed to fade away. Right now, we experience and like the wonderful times that we can sit and laugh and enjoy each day. And every day is like a gift that we love. And that's the way we've make it every day. That's the way we've gotten to where we are. And he's a wonderful person. He's helped so many people. And when I think back of the days that I've taught and all of the children's lives that I've touched, you know, I feel fortunate to be able to have lived and have been able to do what I did, you know. He gets letters and calls, and I see people and they say, you know, you meant a lot to me, and we know that we've helped people, so that's what has helped us all along the way.
Yes.
And his mom used to say, if he'd just leave off that old foolishness. But that's what helps us get from one day to the other. So what do you say, big boy?
You got anything to add to that, big boy?
Well, I think love means different things to different people. But I think that Janell and I have always loved each other and still do. And because of this surgery and having to look death straight in the face, we realized that loving each other is so important. And I think that of all the things we would say about our relationship is we love each other and both of us know it. And I think that's about the most important thing I could say about our relationship. We love each other and both of us know it.
Well, it shows. Everybody, you see it?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I was going to ask you something else, but I think that's a good place to leave it right there. Y'all kind of wrapped it up.
Very good.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janell.
You're so very
I want
welcome.
to thank you all for coming, and want to thank you for the establishment of the Historical Society. And Janell and I look at it as the important work. We're delighted to have been interviewed and be a part of it. And we thank you for coming, and we wish you all a lot of happiness and blessings in the rest of the life that you live. And I hope you'll keep working on the Historical Society. It's a wonderful thing. And it'll bring joy to many, many, many people for many, many years to come. And I just want to congratulate y'all and thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming. And it's been a real joy to be with all of you. I was just thinking, Janell and I have been connected with all of you in a special way. Miss Getz and I haven't known each other like I've known the rest of this year. But in listening to you talk, we've known each other quite a while. You've known who I was and about Girls Chapel and all of that, and I appreciate that. So we thank you for coming and for all the good that you're doing, and hope to be your supporters for a long time to come. Thank you.
Thank you.